Hello, good afternoon. Let me introduce you to Tony Whitaker, who's come here to Gwinnett County Public Library to talk about orchids and especially how not to kill your orchid.
Tony Whitaker has been growing orchids for the better part of 40 years. He has given several presentations to Gwinnett County Public Library on the care of orchids. In this month's programmes, Tony's going to be talking about specifically care of Phalaenopsis orchids.
Many places these days have Phalaenopsis. You don't have to look very hard to find them. Generally, when you're buying an orchid, you need to recognize a few things. First of all, you want to get a healthy plant. The leaves are fairly rigid, okay? You can see that when I move the leaf up, it moves itself back. It has lots of good water in the leaves. Now this is an unhealthy plant. I'm going to show you very shortly why. If you look at that leaf, look, it's flimsy. It doesn't have the turgor again, or the stiffness of this happy leaf. This plant is telling you that it's lost water. It can't take up water. Now, why is that? Well, you have to look at it. It could be that somebody has simply not watered it, or that it's ended up, growing next to a plant where it's not getting any water because that plant may be shadowing it. But there are other reasons, and it's quite common, in fact, in almost every large nursery to have something called mealybugs. And that's what we've got right here. That's an absolute infestation of mealybugs. Now these are sucking insects. One of the major pests of Phalaenopsis in homes and greenhouses for that matter. They suck the juices out of the plant, and that leaves these leaves in very sorry shape. Now, what can you do about that? You can control these guys, and there's a couple of different ways to do this. Number one, there's a product called Rose and Flower Insect Killer. This is very nice to use on these guys. You want to spray underneath as well as on top of the leaves. Get the whole plant wet. Spray the media as well, because frequently mealybugs will live in the media. Now, this is a little bit expensive. However, it works. It's fantastic stuff. I would not use this in the house. I would go outside and spray this plant and allow the plant to dry off. Put it in the shade. Don't put it in full sun because you'll burn the leaves, and that'll cause a greater problem than you already had. Now, there is another way to deal with this problem, and that is alcohol. This is 70% rubbing alcohol. You can simply take this, put it on a paper towel. Now, in this particular case, because this one is absolutely infested, I'm using a paper towel. If you just have a couple, you can use a Q-tip. Now, if you've just got a few mealybugs, what you can do is take a good old-fashioned Q-tip and put a little bit on there, and you can dip it. Get it into those crevices between the leaves. That's important. Even up on the top leaf, you can put some alcohol in that crown. The alcohol is volatile, so it will dry out very quickly. If you want to keep these flowers, that's fine. What you can do is simply cut the flowers off, put them in a little vase, and enjoy them. The reason I say that is because very often it turns out that you'll have mealybugs on the flowers as well. With the isopropanol, you're going to have to be diligent. Check the plant every couple of days for 2 or 3 weeks to make sure that you've got all of them, because they're difficult to get rid of. The reason I said that it needs to be repotted now is because mealybugs will frequently live in the media as well. And so if you get rid of all that old media, that helps to get rid of mealybugs. If you're going to use the same pot, put it in a 20% Clorox solution for 20 minutes, then rinse it off. That'll get rid of mealybugs as well. In terms of killing Phalaenopsis orchids, the #1 way that people kill them is to overwater. This is a pot and a liner. You frequently find that the actual plant itself is in a little plastic soft liner. That's the way the big growers grow them. Often in moss, sometimes in bark. Occasionally you'll find them in a type of mix like Pro Mix or some sort of peat-based. Some people think it's soil. It's really not soil, but it looks like soil mix. This soft liner has a hole in it. The hole is fairly large diameter compared to the size of the liner. What that tells you is that once this plant is watered, and watered well, you want to soak them. Make sure that the roots get wet. They'll generally turn a shade of green. Then what happens is this will drain very, very quickly. These decorative pots are put on the plant so that they can sell them to you and other folks who enjoy these flowers. But what you have to recognize with the decorative pots is that they almost never have drainage holes. If it's a ceramic pot, sometimes you can take a drill and drill holes in it, and then that would be fine to water in. But if it's not a ceramic pot, or if you don't have drainage holes and you can't make drainage holes, like this, for example, is some kind of glass, I'd be hesitant to try to drill a hole in it personally. Then take your plant out. Take it again, it'll be in the liner. Take it out when you water it and let it drain. Because if you water it in this is going to get full, it's going to hold water, and if you hold water at these roots, they will rot. These plants, as they grow in nature, typically they're not terrestrial, which means that they don't grow in the ground. Typically, they grow attached to trees. The roots wrap around the trees. They occasionally will grow on rocks. But the bottom line is they're growing where the roots can always get air. The water needs to drain through so that you can pull more air in, because that's essential to the root happiness of these plants.
Root happiness. All right, let's go and water them.
So I'm here at the sink getting ready to water these plants. Make sure that I've got everybody sorted out. Again, this is a decorative pot, no holes. So we move that, we take that off. This has got a structure called velamen on the roots. It's white. And that structure will turn green whenever it gets wet. You can use warm water. That means slightly cooler than your body temperature. So when you feel it, it should feel slightly cooler. Don't use really, really cold. Because they have a tendency to not take it up as well, and it can cause spotting on the leaves. Now I've turned the water on pretty full strength, and I'm letting it run through this pot. I want to make sure that I get everything good and wet. So I'd say we've gotten that one reasonably well sorted out. And see, the water from this pot, which has numerous holes in the bottom, is draining out rapidly. And that's good. What you can see, I think now, is the green of those roots. So this is a happy plant. We've got it sorted out. Now, if I had been a little more sloppy, and I usually am, because I'm usually watering with a hose, I would have gotten water in the crown of this plant. Now, the crown is the top two leaves. You don't want water in between any of the leaves in the main stem. That causes a problem that can lead to bacterial rot. If that does happen, what you do, take a paper towel, smaller the better really, grab a corner and roll it up so that you get a little point, all right? And you can stick that little point into the water and the crown, see that? That wicks all that water out of there. Do it one more time because there's still a little left. A dead orchid, I've got two examples here actually. These are plants that ended up in my greenhouse, probably underneath another plant so that they didn't get watered for years. If you look at this, and especially, I mean, you can pull it out of the pot. There is no turgor or the roots are soft, all right? Turgor is generally a term that indicates how well the plant parts are holding water, whether they're firm or not. If you look at this plant here, you see green leaves. They're stiff. This is a very healthy plant here. It does need to be repotted, but that's a different issue altogether. This is a very healthy plant, but it doesn't have flowers. Plants do not have flowers all the time. Plants are flowers are how plants reproduce. So they only have flowers a portion of the year, generally. There are certain phalaenopsis that the flowers will last nearly 6 months. But typically, you're going to have a certain portion of the year where you don't have flowers. If you decide that you no longer want your plant after the flowers are gone, find somebody that likes plants and either give it to them or loan it to them or something. Don't throw it away. They're nice plants.